Hello, my name is James T. Thompson, and this is part one of my ASE assignment demo. So in this demo, I'll just be going through the form and ticking the required boxes and showing the corresponding features in my project. So I've already filled these out, just so you didn't have to watch me type. So first of all, unit testing. So unfortunately, I left unit testing until the very end, and to get this in on time, I ran out of time. So I unfortunately only managed to get one test to work correctly in the time that I gave myself, so I should have given myself more time. But I wanted to get this handed in on time. So this one is about command history, populate memory, and draw. And the reason this is the one I did is this was the last thing I wrote before going on to doing the testing. So now if we run the tests, so as we can see, the one test we had has passed. So if I had more time, the way I was going to develop it was the AAA method. So that's arrange, act, and assert. So we can see that arrange is almost getting it ready to be tested to have an input put in by the test. You can then see that act is then putting in the input that we got ready into it. And then assert is almost the actual test that tells you if it passes or fails. So on the form, I'm just going to tick yes, as I have got a unit test project set up. However, as I've just shown, I do only have one test, unfortunately. So again, I'm just going to click yes for this one because that is for part one. The test document with comments in the code. If we look in the code, see it is commented with the XML here, and then here we can see comments helping to organize the arrange, the act, and the assert. I'm just going to tick yes for this. So for part two, I unfortunately didn't get any of the tests to work, so that'll be a no. So next we're moving on to implementation, so appropriate UI. So let's launch the program. So I personally believe that the UI is appropriate. We'll have our command window box over here, and we'll have a canvas here. And here we have a file location, so if we're saving to a file, opening a file, or loading a file, that is the directory it would use. So this points to a text file on my desktop. Here we have the run button for the command window, which will just run all the commands in order. We have the command box where we enter commands, and then upon hitting enter, they will be executed. We can see a menu strip up here with file. So this works with the command window and the file location. So save will save anything that's in the command window to the text file. Here we have the text file, which is located on the desktop, which this points to. So if we use open, we can see that it executes commands and therefore draws them to the canvas. If we go to load, we can see that this pastes into the command window. And then if we entered any new commands, we could use save, which would then save it to the text file. The UI is also fully scalable. So depending on your monitor size or whatever, it can change size. So I believe that the UI for the program is appropriate, so I'm going to tick yes for that. So next we've got commands can be executed on the command line. So I'll just enter some of the commands, for example, rectangle, there we are, circle, triangle, we can do drawTo, we can do moveTo, and then finally we'll do clear. So as you can see, the commands used on the command line, and then when enter is hit, they are executed. So next we're going to look at invalid commands and parameters. So using these examples here. So first of all, we're just going to type in invalid, hit enter. We can see that we get this pop-up box asking us to please enter a valid command and or parameters. So now if we just enter circle with no parameters, we get the same pop-up. We now do circle x, which is not a valid parameter as it is not an integer. We can see we get the same pop-up. And finally, rect10, as it should be rectangle. So we can see again that the pop-up comes up. So we can see that it does report invalid commands, and it does report invalid parameters. Now moving on to the drawTo command with parameters. So we're going to use the command drawTo 100 100. In the example, it does have a comma, but the way mine's been programmed is it's just a space as the split. So we can see that draws to 100, 100. If I reset the canvas, we can see what it should have looked like if we just launched the program. Yep, there we are. So that works. Next, we're on to the moveTo command, which works with parameters. We're going to use the command moveTo 150, 150. So if we just type that in, we can see that the cursor does in fact move to there. Moving on to the rectangle command with width and height. So we're going to do, so in this it says rect, but in mine, as we saw before, it should be rectangle. I believe that's what it said in the spec, but I could be wrong. So just 50, 50. You can see a rectangle has been drawn. Next one are the circle command. So we're going to use circle 100. I'll just clear and reset this. So circle 100, and then we can see a circle drawn with a radius of 100. So next we've got any type of triangle can be drawn. So if we just type in triangle, we get the default values, which creates a right angle triangle, just due to the way that y1 becomes x2 and y2 becomes x3. However, any 3 points can be plotted to create a triangle. So if we just create a completely random triangle, so we can see that's created a different triangle. So if you wanted to create, for example, an isosceles or an equilateral, a user would just have to experiment, just have to keep sort of trying different sort of types, maybe do some maths. But it is possible to draw any type of triangle just due to the types of points. So again, let's just try another one. So you can see it's gone off the canvas, but you can see that it's drawn a different type of triangle. So yeah, any type of triangle can be drawn as long as you've got the 3 points correct. So we're going to now tick that off on the form as yes. Now we're looking at 3 different pen colors being used. So for the pen command to be used, it's simply pen and then the color after. Now I've only got 3, but that should be fine. So if we do pen red and then draw the circle again, we can see that the circle is gone red. So if we now do pen blue and draw a rectangle, you can see that's blue. And then finally, if we just do pen black and draw a triangle, we can see that is back to black. So that's a yes. Next, we've got fill on and off works. So I'm just going to clear the canvas and reset it. So now fill is off by default, but we'll turn fill on. Now when we draw a rectangle, you can see it's filled in. Circle. Oh, wait. See, that's filled in as well. And it also works for the triangle. Just to note as well that the fill works with all the different colors. So if we change the pen to red and then put fill on and then do a rectangle, you can see that we now have a red rectangle. So that's all working correctly. So that's going to be a yes. Next up, we've got reset command moves cursor to initial position. So on our program, we do have a graphical cursor. So we can see, so if we just move the cursor to say 200, 200, we can see the cursor's moved there, but with the reset command, the cursor's back in its initial position of 0, 0. So that's a yes. So next we have clear command clears the drawing area. So if we just load up the file from earlier, we can see it draws that. And with the use of the clear command, the canvas is cleared. But obviously, it also works if you entered commands using the command box. So clear, it's cleared. This doesn't reset the cursor position as that is done with reset. So if you wanted to reset the program back to how it initially opens, you would use clear, then reset. So let's see if that works. That's a yes. Next up, we've got an example program to use in the next question. So read the program into the program window and execute it with a run command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these in. I'm just going to edit it slightly so it fits my program. So just deleting all the commas and turning rect into rectangle. So when I press run, we can see that's drawn that correctly there. So that's yes. Next we've got saved and loads of program in program window. Write a program, quit out, load it, and run it. So for this, I'm just going to write a very simple program. So that should do it. So if we run it, it looks like this. So now if we save this, I'm going to quit out the program, open the program back up. And hit open, you can see we've got the exact same result on the canvas there. So that's a yes. Okay, so now that we've shown the functionality of the program, we're now going to show the classes and the code of the program. So show all the classes of your program in the Solution Explorer, explain what each one is for. So here we are on the Solution Explorer. So we've got ASC core, which is the basically the program, and then we've got ASC. I know these aren't classes, but then we've got ASC tests, which just holds the tests. So inside here we've got dependencies. So we didn't obviously. So this isn't a part of it. So we've got dependencies, which is just what Visual Studio needs to make your program run correctly. Next we have parameters. So this is what would have been used for each of the next we have parameters, which just allows the parameter check to work. So just look and draw a circle. We can see that all it really does is declare the variable radius, which then allows us later to call back on this and use it for the parameter check. So if we look inside canvas, this is the drawing area. So draw a quick look, which is declaring graphics, declaring the pen, and the images X and Y. So creating the new canvas and the graphics. So we've got draw line using the graphics, draw line, X, Y, Z, 2Y, declaring with variables. And here we have draw square, which is just draw rectangle. I know it's a rectangle on the program, I just call it square inside of this. So again, we're just declaring the pen, sort of the fixed values, I guess you'd say, and then adding the variables which come from the command box. So inside here we've got command history. So this is what allows the command window to work, and also we're sort of saving what open functions to work correctly. So we've got a string, a list of the past commands, and then we'll return. And then this is the command count. So this allows the checking of if the amount of commands entered and if the amount of commands put in are the same. It's a function that could be used. That's not entirely what it does. So so we've got submit text. So we've got the validate command. So we're checking if it's not valid, we're going to return false. I'm going to catch if it returns false. So command history, bitmap, alpha bitmap. So it's just declare a new bitmap. So my canvas equals new drawing service. Yes, this is just declaring the canvas really. I have to excuse me, it was a long time since I read this part. So save items, that's just using file write all lines to the save location, which is, if you remember, was in the top, which you declare. And it only saves past commands, so if you enter incorrect commands, it's not going to save them. So open items, the opposite really. So instead of file.write all lines, we've got file.read all lines from the open location. So the same location really. And then we've got populate memory and draw. So that's gonna, if you can think about the command window thing, it's just memory. It's gonna, this is a method that clears the previous memory from using the program, and then is gonna apply all the commands. So drawing it to the canvas. So next we've got load items. So again, this is just read all the lines, but what this one does is it puts it back into the command window rather than just open it and putting it onto the canvas. So we're returning a string, and this environment new line means that no matter what operating system a user might be, although this is a Windows form, no matter what operating system a user might be using, it's not /n, which is only for Windows. Ones for like Unix systems and that are still valid. So here we have populate memory and draw, which we used earlier. So as you can see, it just resets the canvas, clears all the commands that have already been passed through, and we can see that it adds the new commands, and then we get draw, so that goes into the canvas. Next, we've got the command parser, which is quite a big class. So I'll just quickly go through this. So we have, so the command parser obviously just passes the commands. So we've got things in here such as if command starts with, so this is for the command box, so allowing it to pass the commands really, understand the command and then the variable or the parameter. So we've got these for moveTo, line, rectangle, circle, just all of them really, triangle. Most of these have a console write line just so you can keep track. So reset, so on and so on. So this is the validation of a command, so it's just checking if the command's valid, which brings up the text box if not. So we've got return true for all of these, otherwise return false. So that just helps us to create that pop-up box. So this is for draw line, so it's just the parsing, replacing the 2x variable and the 2y variable with the ones that a user would put in. Here we have the moveTo one, which moves the cursor with the x and the y. So moveTo parameters. So this is just to check that the parameters are correct, and a similar sort of method is used for the others. So I'll just quickly skip through this. Here we have triangle, which uses, as you can see, the different types of integers, and we've got an example of how a user would put this in, and then we can just use this just to visualize what each one's doing. So yeah, something you'll obviously see a lot is the split, which just helps us parse it because the split is the space in between the command and the parameters. So here we've got the pen color. So we can see that if items 1, so the second thing ended in the command box, if you like, is black, we're going to set the pen color to black, red, and blue, and that's obviously 1 because we start from 0. And then this brush one allows us to create to use the fill command. So the fill command is not possible with a regular pen. So change fill state. So fill on or off, and it's a boolean. So fill state is by default false. So then we'll split. And if the item's length is more than 1, whether it's going to be on, and the fill state of the canvas is changed to fill state. Let's go to the drawing service. So it's declare the graphics, pen, brush, etc., fill state, Y position, X position. And the color, background color by default is white. So just go to the drawing service, the graphics. So reset, we're just setting the X position and the Y position to 0. And we're setting the pen back to black, and we're setting the brush back to black. And we're making the background go back to the background color. Because when I initially programmed this, when you reset it, the background color will go the same color as the window, which is not what we want. So move cursor, just got X position, Y position, simple stuff. Draw a line, again, just the X position and Y position by the user, which is obviously used by the other classes. Draw a rectangle, and we've got the fill state. So we've got the inches of the width and the height. Also the fill state here, so that's how that works with the brush instead of the pen. And then else, it's just using the pen. So draw a circle again, just the fill state again. So drawTo, got the integers that we get from the classes. This is the cursor. So let's see, we've got the vertical, so we've had to declare the vertical line and the horizontal line. So, and then we've got clear canvas, which just clears and makes everything the background color. So next, just go to the program. So in here is just something here that I've coded. So moving to the next one. Variables again, nothing in here. So now if we just look at the Windows form. Yep, so inside the Windows form, we've got a new bitmap for the drawing area, and we're declaring command history. So that was for testing, I believe. So command box key press, we've got that enter is the key that enters the commands. Here we have trim to lower, so the user could put in, so it's not case sensitive at all, so any mix of capitals and lowercase letters, we're still going to get an all lowercase command. Here we have our warning message that please enter a valid command and or parameters that comes up in the pop-up box. So we've got our save button here. So command history.save items to the save location, and the save location is the file location text. Very, very similar to the open button, just open items instead. So the run button, click, so command history, populate memory and draw. So that's like, so what that's doing again is that's just filling up the memory and running all the commands. And then this is the load file. So this is the one that writes it to the command window. So as you can see, command window.txt equals the load item. So that's rather than just drawing it to the canvas. So then we've obviously got the designer, which Visual Studio automatically sets. And then we've got this, which is just all drag and drop. And then finally, we've got the unit testing, which we've already had a brief look at. We've got the command history, populate memory and draw, with the arrange, act, and assert, and finally we have the usings, which just... Okay, so next we have the show your commits. So if we look at my commits on GitHub, we've got 7, so that's more than 5. 7, and the date of the first commit is the 22nd of October. I'd like to admit a bit of an error on my part, so I'm not too familiar with version controls before I start this module. And oops, I thought that just to send it, you would use the sync and the push. So I would enter a message in here and the sync thing, and I thought it was on GitHub. I didn't check it too often. I'm more someone who works sort of locally on their machine. But I then only learned the other day when going to look at this that you meant to press commit all, and then that sends it to the GitHub on the version control. So I do understand what a version control is. I understand why it's useful. I completely understand why you'd use one. but I just did it wrong. So I sort of did it like this just to show that I understand how you would sort of name different types of version controls and different commits, and what their use is, how you could revert back, just to prove that I understand it. But unfortunately, I have made a bit of an error there. So just quickly as well, XML comments. So we can see XML comments at the beginning of each method. And these will obviously be shown in the doc preview output that will be uploaded with this. Yeah. I haven't got any other comments to put in, so that's the end of part 1. Okay, so now I'm going to run through part 2. So just tick these. Right. So I don't believe I have any things that would qualify as extra marks. I do have the cursor, which you've seen in part 1, and also the lowercase, but I believe that might have been part of the spec. So just going to post the same screenshot of version control. So my commit was not before the 15th, it was on the 22nd. So I really had commits for part 1. I did have commits for the XML documents, but that wasn't 5. So I do believe my descriptions were quite concise and described clearly what each one was. I don't have at least 20 commits for each part. As you can see the commits here, just adding pen colors, fixing fill not working, formatting the code correctly, and parameter detection. So I didn't develop the programming language, so these are on there. So not syntax checking, all that sort of thing. So again, not the parameters, etc. So for these, I wouldn't really say I'd followed the design pattern, but my code is not just all written in one big class, and it does reference other ones, and such things as the command history and the command parser mean that ended up just writing the same thing over and over, and yeah, just things like that. Just means, and things like the drawing service as well. But just the command history was a good one. But I wouldn't say I've done it like this. So I've done that. XML comments used for class and method. So I have got the XML comments as shown before. So I've got all these. So each method does have one with a brief description. I did try and follow, I did sort of use an example of how Visual Studio has these for their own. But yeah, just the parameters are obviously automatically filled out by Visual Studio. So haven't got any other additional functionality really, and haven't got anything else. So that's this part finished. So thank you for watching my demo. I just decided to include part 1 and part 2 together, as due to being reassessment, part 1 and part 2 are being marked together. So figured just making them one YouTube video would be easier. Thank you.